We are working in our 1500 program that we were using in the last section, but I've gone and wiped out our program blocks, and I've emptied out our main, so everything is kind of virgin with the exception of probably a few tags left in our tag database. Not a big deal. And we're going to add a new function block, and let's call this proc1 because it's going to be a process. You can call yours whatever you want, but that's just what I'm calling mine. And here we definitely want this to be a function block, and we want this to be graph programming language. Okay, so let's hit OK. And it's cooking in the background, just waiting for it to pop up. There we go. Okay, so here's where it starts, and you can see what we have right here. We've got this navigation view right here, and I'll show you what that's for. But we've also got this, what is this? We've got a box, and then we've got this little, T coming down here and a couple of arrows. Well, here is where we actually define our process. So, this is our first step. And down here you see where it says trans1. That's our transition. Alright? So come up here. It's very easy navigation, drag and drop. The one that we're going to use the most here, step and transition. So we want to add another step. We just bring this right down here. So now we accomplish this step until we make the transition. Sometimes that's based on a condition, sometimes it's not. And then we come to step 2, we make a transition, and then, where do we go from there? Well, this right here will allow us to add just a step. So there we go, we've got a step, but with no transition. Well, we're probably going to need a transition, so hey, there's the transition button right there. That's how we put another transition on. Once we decide that, this is just a 3-step process and we don't have any more steps here, check this out. This is our sequence end. So right here is where we say, okay, we've hit the end of the road. This sequence is over. We're done. But let's go ahead and delete that out because we're not done yet. We still want to look at a couple more things. So right here we've got a jump, and we can put a jump in here and jump back to step 2. So if this is a cyclic process, we come down here, and once we complete transition 3, boom, we pop back up to 2. So basically what this is saying is we're going to do step 1, step 2, step 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, and keep going like that. Unless we give ourselves some more options and maybe there's a way to terminate this flow. So coming over here, we've got an alternate branch, and we can drag this over here. So one transition will lead us to step 3, and maybe there's another transition over here which leads us to stop. So finally we have a way to end the madness, or not. Okay, so maybe we throw in another step transition under here, and then maybe we've got here 2 steps that need to happen in tandem, okay, at the same time. So if we transition to 2, we're going to go to step 3, and then after step 3 we're going to pop back up here and do step 2 over again. Or if we don't do this transition 2, we meet some different conditions. Hey, we can come over here to transition 4 and do steps 4 and 5 together, and maybe after these we come back to a common transition, and maybe that is where we close. Okay, so that is how one of these diagrams gets set up. That's what it looks like. And, the only other thing up here is, just basically a closed branch. And we can just as easily kind of drag that arrow or drag that point somewhere and close it off that way. It's a little bit more precise. So that's one that I probably would never use. But you know how to use the rest of these. And you know what this diagram does at this point. We haven't clicked into anything yet. So we're still not setting these transitions up. But at least you can see the basic things here. We've got steps. This is where anywhere from 1 to 100 different actions can be taking place. We have transitions, which, let us move from one of these blocks to another. We've got jumps that can redirect us somewhere else inside of this whole process. We've got terminations here. We've got these sequence ends, which when we come to that, we know it's the end of the road. And, we can have several different ends. So, if we wanted, we could add another alternate branch here. And, okay, there. Now that gives us, whoops, I've got to put a transition in there. So transition, stop. Okay. So see, now we could potentially end here, or we could potentially end here. And either one of those, if we got to that point, would terminate the sequence. So I'm going to just kind of give you a sneak preview in case you want to start playing with this before you jump into the next lecture. If I double click on a step, you can see it takes me into this step view. Well, look over here on this navigation pane. You see how I've got this kind of white box around the step and the transition? That's because I've got my step actions here. I've got my transition down here. I can interact with all of this stuff right now. We're not going to, but I do want to show you. Once I get done playing around in here and I say, okay, I want to go back to my big view. Well, you can just click anywhere into this navigation. And let's say I want to go and look at step 3 now. Well, I can click from step to step. Or if I say, no, I want to see the whole diagram, then I just double click out here into space. And there we go. Now I'm back to this view. So, that's kind of the way to do it. Click in here, double click around, and that is what gets you around in here. So don't go looking for an X to click or an OK button or something like that, because that's not how that works. So